Hello, everyone. Friday Night Live. Sue and I, we've been talking, so
Yeah,
uh, glad to have you. Hello, Sue. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Wayne. How are you?
Doing good. Always a pleasure to have you back. You know, it's a delight to have your point of view and appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on. I really appreciate your point of view. Always making us think, Wayne.
Oh, well, you know what? Aroma has different flavors.
Always making us think.
So how's things in your part of the country? Is it cooled off yet? Not probably.
No, I'm like sweltering right now. I don't know what's wrong with my air conditioning, maybe not working, or I don't know what, but whew, it's hot again. We had some rain last week. I mean, it's just been brutal. And like in Colorado, all of the evergreens are, what little evergreens we have are really struggling. So
I just want to say hello to everyone. Brian, how are you doing? Trish G, how are you doing? Claudette, welcome. Michael, we got a lot of people here. You know, don't get stage fright on me.
okay, I'll try not to.
The thing that in Colorado, most people don't realize was about a decade ago, they had an infestation of the pine beetle. And as that beetle made its way through the mountains, today we literally have tens of millions of acres of dead pines.
Yeah, I saw that on Rex's show the other day, although he doesn't think it's the Beatles, but
Yeah, the wood that they actually now, the great entrepreneurs up here, by the way, they are going out and reclaiming this wood because the beetle, when it goes through the wood, it leaves a purple pigment in it. What are you smiling at?
but I'm just laughing at you and your gestures and your purple pigment. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's how it is. So, you and I were talking, and I said, I would like you to come on and maybe talk about several things that I've been discussing, and one of them has always been the subject of Lilith.
Right.
And you and I were just conversing in email, and I have to tell you, that's just what folks, just to let you know, this is what we were talking about before we came on, was the fact that it may be that Lilith may in fact be Nin Herzog, the wife of or mother of Enki. Depends on, I guess, which version you read.
Right.
And go ahead. You were going to say something.
Nothing. No, go ahead. No.
No, I can see that. Go ahead.
No. Once I start, I won't stop. So you go.
Okay. You can always tell me, just get out of my head, man. So it's odd that when you think about this, no one can see a god die. And it seems like she is the creator of our species. And all evidence lends to the fact that she was the one who was basically a geneticist with the Anunnaki. And their experiments had been very advanced. And I just wanted to point something out, Sue. If you look at today, what mankind is doing in the labs, we are doing the same thing the Anunnaki did
Right.
to us.
I know.
So it can't be that big of a leap to begin to say, well, wait a minute, that's probably how we got here. And what I found so interesting was this, Sue, is that number one, she knew in order to graft the gene, the chromosome specifically, to the hominid that they had already, that when she pierced the egg with the spermatozoid, that the egg was able to carry the spermioid, and it had to be an Anunnaki female. And they basically were artificially inseminated.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
So when you think about now how the story has morphed in legend into various religions, different points of view, you can see why she would be demonized, so to speak, because number one, she rebelled against God. God being in this case, most likely Anu. And furthermore, In the legend, Lilith flees from Adam. She is pursued by archangels from God. The archangels catch up to her in her craft. Very interesting. And she fights them off. They were unable to subdue her. And the interesting thing about the legend, Sue, is that she says, I will give up 1,000,000 of my offspring, to fight this thing. And thus the legend is born.
Well, what I found interesting in the research was coming out of the Sumerian information. Lilith, like we were talking about before, it is the fertility goddess, and the goddess of agriculture.
Yep.
And there's nothing in the Sumerian texts about Lilith and the creation story in Adam. That comes out of the Kabbalist texts.
Yes, it does.
They took the story of Lilith. And so I like your point about the Nin-Her Sog, or whatever her name is.
You got it. Actually, way to go.
Thank you. I wonder why would they take, the rabbis took that story and just made, they made her into this horrible demon. They demonized her.
Yeah.
And because they were trying to take back the control from the matriarch. And, I'm wondering, if this is like an ongoing war, so to speak, from wherever the Anunnaki and whatever planet the Anunnaki are from, because Anunnaki is, of course, the Sumerian word, is not whatever planet they're from. I mean, some people think they're the Pleiadians.
Yeah, I don't know if they're the Pleiadians, but I do sense that, when you read the story as it's unfolding, as I'm doing on the show, and we're going to go into chapter 2, part 2 of chapter 1, the Sumerians specifically, you can see exactly where the stories came from.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because Enki was basically he would have been considered the supervisor of the gold mining operation on planet Earth, specifically in eastern South Africa, where the gold mines are at. And that it's interesting because the other word for the supervisor is Lord of the underworld. And as I read today, as the story unfolded, when his mother or his wife, I've seen 2 different versions, however it is, made the suggestion to Enki and said, listen, why don't you just create a god? This would solve your whole problem, because he was having labor problems with the Anunnaki. And he said, guess what? I've already been doing it. That's what he said.
Enki was the geneticist in the crowd.
Yes, he was. And he was actually the one who really loved us.
Right.
And when the command from God of the heavens came to do us away, because he didn't like us, didn't like the fact that what they did, and what I never considered this, Sue, and from a female point of view, I want to get your take, was the fact the first Adam, or Adama, could not produce. He was sterile. And that was the insurance policy that the monkeys didn't begin to populate and become unmanageable. And that's really what that's what Enlil considered us.
Right.
A nuisance. And so when it was given by Ninhursag that she gave the gift of reproduction, and that had been reserved for the gods only.
Interesting. I've not heard that, but that would make sense if she's the goddess of fertility.
Yes. Well, now let's translate this to the garden story. When Adam and Eve were ejected out, that's when God said, your birth pangs shall be increased, for you shall suffer. And the whole point was, that was kind of the curse.
Well, that's what the Kabbalah made it into.
Yeah, exactly.
The Kabbalah made it into a curse.
Yeah, yeah.
They made, I read something about how women are Carl, I cannot remember exactly what the phrasing was. They're completely sexually lustful and sexually out of control.
Oh, yeah.
Women are.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
got a good
where you
laugh
get
on that one.
the succubus,
Yeah, all women. And
Yeah.
so,
You're going, what?
and all of the process that women go through is a curse, and the bleeding and whatnot, it's bad and it's evil, and you can't, so they completely demonized women, and it worked for a lot of years.
Yeah, and I like what this one, the book we're reading, with did I say his name? Mauro?
Mauro.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mauro. I always want to call him Mario, but it's Mario. Mauro. The point that he brought out in this was that how things got reversed, because it was the female Anunnaki that caused this, as far as he was concerned. And that when they were pushed out of Eden, and that was the place of the multi-trees and what have you, as the story goes, was the fact that, and this is what Enlil said, they're going to multiply. And boy, have we multiplied.
This is true. This is true. This is right. I want to bring in another aspect of the feminine part of that.
Thank you. Yes.
With Lilith, which would be she's the goddess of the dark moon, the new moon, and she's the goddess of, basically authenticity and the self and intuition. And that, I think that's another aspect of the feminine aspect that Enlil did not want. Enlil wanted left brain robots, thinking robots, which interestingly enough is what they're trying to, I think this war goes on today, because that's what they're trying to do to us today.
Yes.
And Enki created this, and Enki and maybe Ninhur Sa created this more feminine right brain aspect to humans. And then it all spirals from there.
Well, when you were talking, I'm seeing in my mind the lab experiments that they're doing in genetic boutiques today. They are altering. We are doing, again, like we said, we're doing the same thing that we're just talking about this race, this species doing to us.
Right.
And we don't find that to be so odd. I mean, Britain last week approved the GMO babies, genetically modified organisms in producing life. I don't see the difference here.
No, there is no difference. And when you get into that, which spirals into a whole nother topic, they're clearly moving humans towards some form of sterilization.
Yes,
right?
They are. Yeah.
And are they moving us to cloning alone? I mean, is Enlil winning the war? I don't know, but it, to me, then it tracks into all this with AI. And if there were, if they came to this planet from another planet, obviously they have, they have computers, they have artificial.
Yeah, they did.
And so that means that it's conceivable that as long as we've been around, AI has been operating in the background in some way, shape, or form.
No doubt.
And are they moving us now, trying to move us towards a new form of just we're still their slaves? I don't know what we're doing for them exactly at this point in time, but that would be the question. But are they moving us so that they can just now implant chips in clones? And I don't know.
Or maybe they've already told us what they're going to do and the ideal solution. When I began to think about how Enlil would look at us, he is vengeful, wrathful, doesn't give a crap about us. And then I thought the Georgia stones, the Georgia guide stones.
Mm-hmm.
And when they said that the population needs to be at 500 million, and I thought, that's a manageable number.
Is it 500 million or 500,000?
No, 500 million, I
Oh.
think, is the number. If maybe someone can do some fact checking.
Somebody tell us.
Yeah. Come on, fact check us on this thing. But I think it's 500 million. Either way, it's a hell of a reduction of the current number today.
Right.
And I'm going back now to where the legends and the stories are coming from, that if Enlil wanted to wipe us out, as I read today, he used a natural celestial event, which they knew about, and that was the passing of their planet in our solar system. And they knew that the particular passage that happened for the deluge 13,000 years ago was in fact close enough that it caused our poles to flip. And that's why it was so intense. Now, this thing passes by quite regularly, but it depends on where we are and where it is at. So I'm thinking to myself, what if they left a delegation here? I mean, I really think about this.
Is it the royal family?
Well, according to the gentleman who's writing these books, yes, I think that that's who it is, whoever that family is. They've been here a very long time. They've passed this down for quite a while.
Well, that makes sense. You getting back to Enki and Enlil in the garden. With Enki was the serpent.
Yes.
They're reptilians. Enki was the serpent.
Yep, the bringer of knowledge.
She sent him to the garden.
Yeah.
And so I do think that they are here, and they are, but it looks like I said, it looks like Enki's or Enlil's kind of running the show at this point in time.
Yeah, I still question if, I think he left. I'm convinced of it. I think he is. Maybe he hasn't. I guess I was thinking this afternoon, I was writing my notes in my office, and I was thinking, well, Anu is very detached. I mean, it's like, man, don't tell me what you're doing. I don't. And he's come back apparently maybe once, maybe twice, to see how the experiment is going. And I'm wondering if this is what they're preparing for.
Which, the passing of Nibiru?
That and the return of Anu.
Oh, well, that would be fun. That'd be like the second coming, right? They've been preparing us for.
Now you're hitting on something that's very, very interesting, because I thought about that and I said, well, wouldn't that make sense? Anyway, it's a thought. Someone wrote today on the program, the RH factor. I think we know where it came from now. It came from the female Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. Definitely, that's the strain of that for sure.
What is it? O positive.
O positive.
Anyone can take the blood, but an O positive person can't take anyone else's blood, only their own.
That I don't know, but I know the O
My
positive.
wife, she's a nurse.
Oh, so she would know then.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's been one of those factors I've looked at a long time. How do you explain the RH factor?
Right.
I don't know. Here's one for you. So we're talking about creating life potentially out of a lab, us. And it has been legend in the Kabbalah that the Hebrews could produce golems. These were physical beings that were basically slaves. They weren't real smart, and they did not have a very long lifespan. I'm thinking about us, our species, Sue. And here's a question. My wife said, oh, yeah, this is going to be fun to lay on them. So at birth, is a soul automatic at birth, or is it granted?
Interesting. I don't think that you have any creation, human type creation or carbon-based creation that doesn't have a soul. That would be my That would be my opinion, because it requires consciousness to create. So you would have to, my opinion, you would have to have the soul, and that element, the consciousness is the soul to me. That would be my thought.
Well, it's interesting because we know they had other they did other models of us that apparently didn't work. And I keep asking myself, did they have souls?
I would say yes. Animals have, I think animals have souls. Dogs, my dogs for sure have souls. We're all going to be in heaven together.
That's going to be awfully crowded. Who picks up the poop?
I don't know, not me.
I mean,
My
you think about
my
this.
kids will pick up the poop.
I don't, I mean, someone's got to pick up the poop. I mean, well, it's an interesting point. And I don't know if you heard about the tragedy up here in Denver this week. There was a guy, a family guy who was married, had 2 children, ages 2 girls, 2 and 4. And he murdered his wife, who was 19 weeks pregnant, and his 2 daughters. And Lynn and I were talking, and I said, did that man still have a soul? I mean, it really gets to this question. I know a lot of people in law enforcement who deal with people that they'll tell you a lot of people don't seem to have any soul at all. So it was just a question I had, is a soul automatic at birth, or is it granted?
I think the souls are there. Even in the what we would consider to be the worst, the most heinous of acts, the soul is there. The soul is fractured. The soul is so separated from, or the self is so separated from the soul, or so programmed,
Yeah, I don't
programmed away from the soul.
Yeah, I don't. I've been trying to comprehend this. In my meditation, I can't. It's affected me because I can't understand where a person's mind's at on that. And it gets to this.
They're not in their mind.
Interesting. Now, Jeff. I think that here's where I think a lot would apply, that maybe something parked in him temporarily. When I was a youth on my own at the age of 16.
You're still a youth, Wayne.
I am. I really am. I think it's this perpetual. I don't know. But they arrested a mass murderer in the apartment that I was in. It was downstairs. And this guy in Houston, Texas, had killed about 11 boys my age. And they actually caught him where I was at.
Wow.
So, it's one of those questions. I mean, do you think that the person just leaves? I don't know. I mean, it's a perplexing, and this is probably not the place because we were not supposed to be talking about this, but
it's okay. But it's interesting because I think when I think about people like that, how do they do it? They're wired differently. It's brain wiring and body chemistry, and that's what it is. And it has a purpose. It's duality. This is duality. If we don't have that kind of thing, we don't have duality, right?
Well, and that is the bite that gets you.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
It is. I agree. It is the bite that gets you, because you can't, some of us can't even fathom how people, like as a mother, I can't even fathom how a woman could do some of the things that women do to their kids. But
yeah. What was the one who drove her children into the lake?
Smith?
No, I mean, was that the one in Florida, or
Susan? I think her name was Susan Smith.
Okay. Yeah. I don't even remember. I just remember the incident. Yeah.
You're reading my mind. That's the one I was thinking of, actually. And then I'm trying to change that thought because her name is Susan, like mine. I'm going, no, let's pick the woman from wherever religious.
Johnny Cash had a great song, Just Don't Call Me Sue, boy. You have to have a little humor now. Come on.
Especially in this topic. But
well, yeah, it's pretty heavy. It really is.
It is, it is menopause. Somebody put menopause in there. There is a point to that. But I think if people just are so separated from, but I do believe it's wiring. There's I don't necessarily want to say creative design, because I don't believe the creator is creating. That we're part of the creator and we are all creating, but there has to be duality in order for there to be any existence. So,
and it's interesting when you say the creator now, because if the story is correct, and I think we're going to be finding out here pretty soon that there was no creator.
well, I'm talking about the creator. I'm talking about the source.
The source of all
that we all emanate
yes,
from.
yes. I call that, yeah. And I read a theory on that is really called the otherness.
The what?
The otherness.
The otherness.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's interesting because the otherness, it isn't good or bad. It isn't good or evil. The concept doesn't exist.
It just, I was listening to someone today and we're talking about it is consciousness, and it's consciousness having experience. That's what we're here for, is just to have experiences. And that to me explains why you would have this element that does, the darker aspect and the light. It's just consciousness gathering experience, the whole universe.
I have been saying that, and that's why I really just adore where your mind is at, along with Brian's. Hello there, Chris. How are you doing? By the way, I'm going to be on Chris's show tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central, I think. Anyway, that consciousness is.
Yeah.
And when I think about my life, when I finally figured out what the quote unquote secret to life is, the purpose of life, it's about your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's all it is. It's not this, no, people say it's a spiritual journey. Yeah, and yes and no. When it really gets down to it, let's be honest. It's about your physical experience in this temporal plane.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And I do feel like it's also about, there is some aspect of growth to it. I don't think
I agree.
Or, so I think that it's certainly plausible that we have lifetimes we come here when we are those, or anywhere in the universe where we are the what's the word I want to use? The anti-light, the more, I don't like to use negative, because negative and positive go together. They're, like Lilith, for example, she is reflective of the negative ion. We use that word negative and we all think bad. Well, negative ions are very positive. They clean the air and they pick up bacteria. I mean,
exactly.
So they're
very good.
So anyway, but we all do the bad, what we would judge as bad. And
I wonder if the Anunnaki, if Ninhursag actually thought about the consequences of the death of us. I mean, they die too. What people don't realize, our gods die. And it's even in the Christian Bible, Psalms 82. It says God will die. It's just that their lifespan is so much greater than ours, we never see them die. So then it leads to the question then, what is death? And I wonder, since we were created in a lab here, is this why we get stuck here?
I don't think we're stuck here.
You think when we pass on that we get to go out there? Because that's what I certainly look forward to.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, call me the space cowboy. I am heading out there.
I don't subscribe to the soul farm aspect and that we're trapped here and stuff.
Good. Well, let's hear that. I like that.
I think we come here for the fun of it. Literally, I think it's, we come here on purpose. I think that's why there's so many people on the planet right now. They're all here to experience this really exciting ride that we're going through right now.
And maybe they know that the gate will be closing soon.
And yeah, that could be too. Yes.
But that's a very interesting. So that goes along with the duality. Yes. How can you know pain? If you don't have pain, you'll never know what it is to be joyful.
And that's why consciousness creates this duality, because it can't, when you're there and you're just conscious, it's just neutrality. You said it yourself. It doesn't choose. and it doesn't care. It's just neutrality.
Yeah.
So you create the density and create the, you know, the duality so that you can have an experience. That's
I totally agree on that. I really do. You know, when I got out of the guilt matrix, and that's what Christianity is really good at. I mean, they know how to initiate the guilt matrix. And you know, I've lived a very, well, an unusual life. Started out very, very young, and it's just been rock and roll all the way through.
Yes, you have had an unusual life.
What'd you call that?
An
unusual life?
I said you have had an unusual life.
Yeah.
You said.
Yeah.
Cool. And,
Yeah.
and that's, I think I mean, I feel like I've had an unusual life.
See?
I was, you know, I was born into an Italian Catholic family, and I really early on, I was figuring out that there's just something that's not right here. I don't know why. And then, you know, when I was in college, I was hit by a car. I broke both of my legs. And
I didn't know this.
Yeah, we won't go into all that. But, you know, these strange, bizarre things. I went to school in Italy I had a school year in Italy. So I've done a lot of different.
What part of Italy?
I've broken, you know, if I go to the Catholic Church now, I always say this, the doors catch on fire when I come in. I've broken every rule. I've done, not every rule, but a lot of the rules, enough of the rules. And what happens with people like to me, like you and me, people that have done, you know, in society would look at me and go, man, what happened there? But what makes us smart and empathetic, I mean, we get it because we've had these experiences that other people haven't. Right? They're just judging it. But no, it just makes us more in tune and empathetic, and I don't know, it steps us out of the matrix.
It does. And you know, it was odd that when you were talking, Sue, I was looking back on some of my experiences. One of the ones I remember distinctly was there was a place up on the Yuba River up in Northern California. Are you there?
Yeah, Sue? I'm here. Yeah, I think my internet is doing its thing.
Yeah, it's kind of fading out, but you're still coming in and
AI
out.
doesn't like my topic.
No, it does not. But I've had some great experiences. I can remember there was.
I don't know why this happens to me.
That's because of the energy. And there's no.
I think so. I'll try to calm my energy down.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But it is those experiences. You know, like I said, there was a place up there on the Yuba River. I don't know if you can still go to it today, but back there in the 70s, there was actually a nudist camp that was up in there. And we hiked up in there, and I'll never forget that night. We were out there, we had a fire, and when the glacier came through, it pulled these huge, giant redwoods, and the roots were out over the Yuba River. And you could climb out on these huge roots and sit down and see the river itself. It was just beautiful. But we all took some peyote that night, and it was quite interesting to see.
Wait. What is that? What is that? I don't know what that is.
Oh, peyote?
Yeah.
It's a cactus plant. It's where they get mescaline from. Do you know what mescaline is?
No, I do not know what that is either.
Okay, it's a hallucinogen.
You're gonna have to educate me.
You know, Billy Joel wrote a song about you girls like that.
Yes, he did. And we are when I was reading up on Lilith, you know, I am a child of Lilith. But not from that, you know, just from the sort of the authenticity part. But anyway, go on.
Well, mescaline, peyote is you have to be really careful because you have to cut the strychnine out. Otherwise you could get strychnine poisoning. But it was used in ceremonies with the Indians, and we were all around a campfire. And I have to say, it was those experiences that I look back that made me aware that there was another world within a world. because I've talked with them. I've danced with them.
Wow.
And yeah.
I
So
love
anyway,
that.
yeah, I digress. So everyone now, yep. Everyone's going, really? Yeah, really.
So you don't really digress because this was something we were thinking about talking about anyway. So you're in another world. You're in the spirit world. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Been there many times. Yeah, it's and people don't realize that we're literally side by side. I mean, the membrane is so indistinguishable. It really is, between what we can see in this realm and the existing realm that I think we're immersed into.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just because I mean, as I talk to them, well, I want to say all the time, but when I tune into it, I talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're right there, and it really is interesting if it's is it like the parallel universe? I'm really fascinated by the whole concept, or the whole, you know what I mean? I'd love to know how it works. I'm really super curious because it makes me, this is why I so strongly believe, that we're not just gone when we die, because they're there, right?
Yeah, this is why I am in this journey now, because I believe I've seen what's there. And that's why I contend in my videos, Sue, that we're in the death realm. It's an experience that's very rare, but when we leave this, we're actually going into a living realm that is going to be yet another experience. And I just know that there's a lot of energies that are out there. It happens. And now when I meditate, it's very easy for me to get inside and outside at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It does. And that reminds me, I meditated today, and I go and I sit with someone. I do this whole, I call this meditation. I don't know what you would call them, but anyway, I sat with this gal, and first time today, I just really hit into just source, like we were talking about earlier. Just that white, I don't know, it was a white color to me, just a powerful kind of feeling. I can't even describe it. Just wow, when you can really drop into that, it's absolutely amazing.
It is. It is. I tell you, Sue, we're learning. I believe that we may be that generation that really begins to transcend in understanding. I think it's just a lack of knowledge that holds
It
most
is.
of us back. Well, gee, wasn't
It
that
is. I mean,
profound,
but
Steiger?
it's that deliberate. It's the deliberate. I'm sorry, my internet is doing its thing again. Apparently we're getting onto a topic we're not supposed to be talking about because my
Exactly.
internet's doing its
Exactly.
thing again.
The energy levels
But I
going
was
up.
saying that, it's been this yeah, this deliberate destruction of the information from, and it starts in really with the Hebrews, with the Jewish tradition. To me, looking back in my research, where I can see where all the stories started changing, especially around the feminine, it started in the Kabbalah. There's a lot of elements of truth in the Kabbalah, but there's also is where the deception really begins.
I think so. And it's so masculine. They keep, and listen, I've read the Azira. I get it. But they say that the feminine is embedded in there. And I'm still saying that that's why Lilith and the legends told Adam, buddy, you get down. I'm going to be on top. And that was unacceptable. And I think throughout the matriarchal systems that we now see today, where it's odd that we live in the United States where they say, well, they promote feminism, but actually that's a lie. We're still in this male dominated matrix of thought.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and I'm sorry, my computer, I can't believe it's doing this. I have not had these problems with it until tonight, just all of a sudden. And I lost my trainer. Oh, on the masculine, and the other thing about the masculine though, on the feminine is, we have the yin yang symbol. Of course, the feminine aspect is the dark, and the masculine aspect, the positive ion, is the light. But how it goes, it's skinny and then wider, and this is the constant shifting of duality. It's always swinging back and forth. So we've been patriarchal, we were matriarchal, the patriarchal came in and took over, and now it's completely out of balance, and now is swinging back. That's another, I think, aspect of what's going on here.
By the way, when you said that, I had this thought that I was writing. So I think we've had one answer, particularly, when I came out of the Christian religion and you in Catholicism, was that, isn't it interesting? They said in the beginning was God.
Catholic,
yeah. And that's what Catholicism is, folks. And isn't it odd that God started in darkness? Did you hear?
Wait, I didn't hear you. No, okay. I didn't. No.
Okay. Isn't it odd?
Say that again. God did.
In the beginning was God, right? That's how the scripture reads, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if we're still getting delay or not. It's, it's almost like doing sign language. Are you frustrated, Sue?
No, not at all. I love my computer. In the beginning was God.
My point to all this is, and sometimes we get it strung out, but the fact is, if you take it literally for what it says, this God was in darkness to begin with. She froze up. Well, folks,
yeah, right, exactly. Bingo. Neutrality, darkness, neutrality is.
Well, the point is that he said, "Let there be light."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that directly implies he was in darkness to begin with.
Yeah.
Ponder that one, folks.
I love that.
It might be the answer to a lot of this. Anyway. Well, I hate to see this thing on. How's your computer now?
It seems to be fine at the moment. So we're not talking about anything controversial that AI doesn't like. So we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Trish G says send positive vibes to Sue's computer.
Send it to my computer, please.
We'll lay hands on it. You're healed.
I'm not going to lay my hands on it. I'll probably fry it. I do have that ability. I've had that ability all my life. I can walk up to some piece of equipment and fry it just by standing there. I used to do it to copy machines all the time.
Yeah, they've made movies about your type.
Did they? I don't even think I'm Rh negative. I don't know why I'm so special that way.
Well, there is that. I can't wear watches that have batteries in them.
Are you Rh negative?
No, I don't think I am. I don't even know what blood type I am. I have red blood. I've seen that many times.
Actually, blue before you.
Well, technically, yeah. Oh, see, that's where the blue bloods come from, folks. That's that royal DNA. By the way, Sue, when we talk about the concept of divinity,
that's right.
So when you think about divinity, think about where it actually came from. Divinity is actually the DNA of the Anunnaki.
Why do you say that?
Pardon?
Why do you say that? What do you get?
My point is that we have the concept in a spiritualist point that divinity is to be next to God. And where it originated for our species was, in fact, it was originated by the first humans that came out. It was the divinity was brought by the idea of the DNA of the Anunnaki. They were the royal blood. It was the blood of God.
Okay,
So,
interesting.
yeah, wait to part
Very
two.
interesting. It gets me back to the royals and the
So the story as it goes, these are called semi-gods, this royal family, these overseers, and they have been tasked, but oddly enough, they have a price to pay. I think that whoever the descendants are, when the keepers come back, if they're not happy, I think that it could be curtains for them.
Interesting.
Well,
so this honor return could be really interesting for everybody.
Oh, I think it bodes bad for the whole lot. Because my point is this, and here I will just talk some of my theology. When I was studying theology, you see, I contend that Enki stayed. He was actually portrayed, as the bad guy. But the point is, there was a deity, a presence, I don't think it was Enyo. I really do. I think it could have been Enki. I don't know. But whatever power was in the temple, that deity left. It left when Solomon betrayed it. And in the story of the Bible, you read that Solomon betrayed God, and thus God removed his power and his anointing from the temple, and that was it. I contend whoever was left got into the spaceship and was out of here. And they obviously have interstellar travel ability. And it almost seems, Sue, and this is just my contention, that there's been no one here of that status that we would call the gods, God, Enki, Enlil, whoever it may be. And we've been on our own. And look at the mess that we've done.
Well, yeah, I don't know that we're on our own. Someone's pulling the strings.
Now, there's a second side to this. We're on our own. I didn't say that it doesn't mean that we're not vulnerable to be manipulated, because obviously we have been. I think it's the flaw in our makeup.
Yeah. You know what the flaw in our makeup is? I've come to the conclusion.
What?
We humans, we have to, well, there's two, we have to have a purpose.
We do.
We have to have a purpose. And the other flaw is that, to me, the need for self-preservation, to me, is a weakness that they exploit. If that makes sense. But the purpose thing is one thing. So human beings have to have a purpose, or they're miserable. So we're constantly looking outside of ourselves for this purpose, and that's what they exploit us, is on the purpose.
I think that there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of other places they do. And
yeah,
it becomes the purpose of why. Why is the necessary for control? That's the question I always ask. Why the necessity for control?
That's what, and I think I have the answer to that too. Of course, I think I have the answer to a lot of things, but
I like that.
I feel like that they control us because we are creators. So it's all about keeping control of our thought process and our emotional process, because those are the two areas that we really create in. It's in especially the emotional, subconscious emotional aspect, and then the mental aspect. So if they can control that and keep us from doing anything, if we're constantly contradicting ourselves, we're not creating. But when we're in alignment, we can create anything. I really believe that. When you really tap into source, I know we have that power, and that's why the control. So it has something, in my opinion, it has something to do with the human's ability to create. And maybe they know because they're creators themselves.
Bingo.
Like, we can't let this get out of control.
You just hit it. And thus the story for the Tower of Babel. Mm-hmm. The clues have always been in there. It said the Anunnaki knew that if we ever got together, that's why they came in and again did a interesting mass experiment. However, they put the contagion in us, they did, that basically gave us amnesia and the ability that where we had to begin to learn different languages. And there's a whole story in that. But my point is this: they gave us the clue. They said that if we were able to come together in unity of thought, that there would be nothing that we could not do.
Interesting. Wow. Really interesting. Well, then that basically is kind of what I just said in a way.
It is exactly what you said.
And when I was researching, also, I read that there's a molecule in the brain that basically deletes memory. Humans that have poor memories, and there's some sort of molecule. So, this feeds right into what what did you call it? A contagion.
Yeah, it is. I'm convinced that what they've done to us is the only way they could do it. Mm-hmm. And you think about it, the day will come, I do believe that's what their greatest threat is. And if the scouts ever come back and report back to the home base that these people got together, I think it's game over for the Anunnaki. And I think it's an opportunity for our species to really ascend to where I think that where we're eventually are supposed to be.
Makes a whole lot of sense because of the constant need to keep us divided and fighting. So
yeah. I mean, I heard this, and I have to agree with this, that the reason for hate is the lack of understanding. Mm-hmm. And, I really begin to, when I find myself becoming irritated by something, I have to stop and say, Steiger, wait a minute. What's that irritating you for? That's that individual's point of view.
That's good, Wayne.
Yeah,
it is good because you're right. That's the key. Basically, you're hitting on the keys to basically enlightenment. Once you can stop projecting all of your issues out and just wait a second, Steiger. Why does this bother you? And see your own. I mean, that's the key to everything for all of us. We can all just stop projecting onto everyone else our issues. We eliminate all of the discord and division.
They'll be dancing in the street.
Yes. The lions will lay down with the lambs, or the wolves, whatever the Mandela effect says.
Well, I got to tell you what, I think that on the other side, they must be having one hell of a concert going on with Aretha Franklin over there. Yeah. I mean, come on, Tom Petty, George Harrison. I mean, think about the band. They got the band back together. John Belushi is in it. I'm telling you.
He probably is. If they're not all back on the planet already. Except
I don't know. I mean, talk about that. And by the way, I know we're about to end here, but did you read about the 4-year-old in England? She has an IQ of 171. She's already a member of the Mensa Society. The interesting thing about this child is she began to speak about 2 months earlier than most children. Her first words were "Hiya," like "Hiya."
Nice.
And it was after that she began to comprehend language, mathematics. It's quite remarkable.
Wow.
I don't know if she's a star child, but boy, I'll tell you what, 4 years old and IQ of 171.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad that they probably identified her and gotten a hold of her.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I hadn't thought about that. Well, I see now that just, well.
Sorry, I'm a little cynical.
Maybe she has carried over the shard of memory.
The shard of memory. Well, I wonder about that. I wonder, like you, for example, or me, how do people, by shard of memory, I'm assuming the one that stays connected. How do we manage to move out, and how do we manage to move into this understanding when some people can and some people can't? That fascinates me.
I think that, I don't know this, but I bet you it's chemical.
Chemical?
Yeah. Well, you think about it. Our 5 physical senses, 3 of them are chemical based, 2 of them are electrical based.
Yeah.
And if the electrical charge is already there, the wild card factor would be the chemical compound that would be uniting to the electrical component.
Oh, that makes sense. That's good thinking, Wayne. That's deep thoughts there.
I get accused of that all the time. My wife says that she said to tell anyone that ever asked or makes comments, she said, try living with the man.
Love to see her come on and say hello someday. Will you put that request in? Tell her
Yeah,
that.
I have many times. And she says, she says one Steiger's enough. So I love the woman dearly. I'll tell you, she has been an element that I never knew possible, because my growing up, I never had the love of a mother. I never had the love of a father. That was absent in my life. And so I went through this life having to discover what love was, because I really never got it as a kid. So,
wow.
Yeah.
She must be amazing.
She's quite the lady.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the Cornelius brothers and Sister Rose. You've got to treat her like a lady. Anyway,
You're right.
do the best that you can do. Anyway, well, Miss Sue, thank you, dear. We didn't even get to do the cards, but I left the link to your channel, and is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
All right, Wayne, no, every time I'm on with you, by the time I get done with the show, my brain is like frazzled. So I just, everybody that comes into the community, the chat room is always so great. I've been trying to keep an eye on it. It's just been,
I know, it's like,
positive chat, and everybody's been so great. So
good group of people, I tell you. I really dig it. You know what it is, and I have it right here. I'm going to start saying this. Welcome, free thinkers.
I love it.
Because we are a community of free thinkers. And what's really interesting is that when you find the new ones, the newbies, and they're finally, I like it. I get two types. I get ones that are totally asleep, that stumbled in here by accident, and I often tell them it's actually by destiny, or the ones who have just awakened and they're going, what's going on in here? Y'all are different.
We are different. Yeah, but the great thing about it isn't, you're just, to me, central to this. It's just to find people that are like-minded and be able to come in here and, we spend our Friday nights in here watching Wayne, and it's
really, y'all got to get the life. But you know what? That's why we come here. This to me was a throwback to what we used to have in the coffee shops. Yeah. Where people would actually be able to get together, strangers, and you would engage in mental coitus of intellectual thought.
Well, okay, so it's coffee shop. In my case, it'll be the tea shop.
Well, exactly, it's tea, but the point is that this is why I enjoy this format. I'd much rather be obviously in person, but we can't do that. But hey, it's not bad.
No, it's great. And I do want to say, I guess if you do one plug, I was talking about being a child of Lilith, because one of the things that Lilith, the goddess Lilith, at this point in time kind of personifies is like this self-awareness and introspection and living authentically. I mean, if you get involved with that energy, the Lilith energy, and I think at this point in time, a lot of these gods and goddesses are really personifications of just human features. So if you're working with it, you're working with that frequency, or you're working with that energy. And that's one of the things that I'm really all about. It really is. It's so important, like we were talking about earlier, for us as people to come into ourselves and to know ourselves and really be raw and authentic in ourselves, so that we're not projecting out, and we're not, that's the key to making this transition smooth. That's what I believe. And so, that's what I'm always working on. It's not really very popular approach to things, but it is. And I have my channel, that Schuster by Susan channel, that I do, I just do my little daily readings. It's really targeted on this concept, the concept of really looking at the self and what the self needs to do, and what you can do is within yourself to keep yourself moving forward or growing as a person to that place of authenticity. So that, I'd like to plug
And I
that,
listen. I
that
listen
channel.
to.
You
I
do?
listen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep.
My short little dailies.
I think they're great.
Sometimes I blow myself away.
They're, the thing about it is, if a seeker of knowledge has to be a pursuer of wisdom,
Yeah.
and the knowledge is in so many diverse flavors, and I get insights. I listen to you. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, good. Cool. I'm glad that you do. You're a
Well,
party of a few, but I'm going to put the link in the chat because I didn't come in under that.
oh, it didn't? Okay, well, send it to me. I think I made that mistake before.
I'll put it, well, no, I'll put it in the chat room. But anyway, I just wanted to cover that because that's something that's near and dear to my heart. I mean, I feel like one of the other things about humans is with our gifts, once we discover our gifts, what I always see everybody wants to do is share their gifts, right? They want to share their gifts with the world. That's what we always want to do. We want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in service. That's an aspect of humanity, is being in service to others. And that this is part of what I'm doing with it.
Well, I think it's far out.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, you're a pretty groovy chick. So
Thank you.
yeah, it's all right. Listen, I'm still that guy. I mean, anyway, life is good.
We all love you, Wayne. Your awesomeness.
I tell people the day that my visa is up, I am just going to throw back the peace sign and say, man, what a trip.
Good for you. That's the way it should be. That's a life well lived.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, let me just say, because you hit on something, is the fact that a well-lived life is a life well satisfied.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. And I think that when you have had enough, you said, all right, this is it. I'm ready to go on. I think that the body begins to get the message. And anyway, I think that's a knowledge that we've lost, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amongst the many things that we've lost in the knowledge, and things that are going back to Lilith, things that are made into bad things, quote unquote, when in reality they're good things. It's part of the hidden knowledge, part of keeping us from ourselves.
And I speak to that personification. I said, I dig you. I think that you're one cool chick because, listen, the fact is, by the legend, your mate died. You're still alive. I mean, come on, guys.
She didn't eat the fruit, so that's why they died and she's still alive.
I mean, come on. I tell a single guy, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that's the chick you want to be with.
The one that's not going to die?
Well, yeah. I mean, she's figured it out. Hey, listen, she met the big guy and the big guy couldn't do her away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can hear Janis thinking, Janis Joplin's in my head going, cry. All right. All right, folks. Well, thank you all. It's been fun. Has it been a good chat room? I haven't.
Yeah, the chat, for near as I could see, of course, it's hard to follow, but it looks like of course, everyone's always fantastic. So I want to thanks to everybody for being here and listening. And
subscribe over on to Sue's channel and her new one. Suzanne, is that what it is?
Susan, Suzenn.
Oh, Susan. Okay. Yeah, I like
used to buy Susan. I'll put another link.
Yeah. So send that to me and I'll make sure to get that in there. Okay. And thank you again.
Thank you, Wayne. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right. Y'all be good and we'll see each other real soon. All right. Good night, everyone.